Hey friends, welcome to Bokeh, a podcast exploring the ever-blurring lines between the personal and business lives of professional photographers. This is your host, Nathan Holritz, and I'm bringing you a special episode of the Bokeh Podcast today called Workflow Wednesday. During these special edition episodes, myself and my co-hosts will focus on helping you develop more efficient daily and weekly workflows around post-production, communication, task and project management, time management, file and image management, and yes, the list does go on. We're going to save you an incredible amount of time in your work week, and we promise not to be too nerdy. This podcast is brought to you by Photographers Edit, custom image editing for the professional photographer. Just visit photographersedit.com.
We are back. Man, it has been a long time since the last Workflow Wednesday episode.
Yeah, the holidays just kind of come and make everything feel like, you know.
When was the last one?
Before we left for our for the holidays.
So like December, middle of December or something like that?
I think it was mid-December and then we left town. Yeah.
Haylee, can you refresh us refresh our memory, refresh us?
Can you read the last meeting's minutes?
What was the last Workflow Wednesday episode?
The last Workflow Wednesday was us talking about what to do when your company screws up. And then
there's that. Yes.
The one before that was all about Milu and the app that we launched.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. Do we use the word screws up? I don't know.
I think that's actually how we titled it for the episode that we pushed out. Yeah, we did.
I love it.
By the way, for anybody that has not hung out with us for Workflow Wednesday before, welcome. This is a special edition of the Bokeh Podcast, and particularly special because we actually go live on video. So if you're listening to the audio version of this after the fact, know that occasionally on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, and of course we send out announcements about this, but we do go live on Facebook and then push out the audio version later on. And occasionally you're going to want to make sure that you go back to the video version if you haven't seen it, because Rich has a tendency of creating a complete experience for us visually that you will miss out on if you don't get to see the video. So make sure you go back to Facebook Live it's facebook.com/photogsedit, the Photographers Edit Facebook page. But welcome to Rich and Heather Smith. And
hello. You. Good to see you guys.
It's good to be here. It's good to be live.
It is good to be live, yeah, and at times a little bit disconcerting too. I think today we managed to avoid too many technical issues, but again, for anybody who's not heard this series before, it is called Workflow Wednesday for a pretty obvious reason. We talk about workflow, more specifically efficient workflow for our businesses, so that we can do more than just sit behind the computer and spend time with the important people in our lives. Rich and Heather, you all, speaking of, spent 2 weeks in Florida with your family, Heather?
3 weeks.
It was close to 3.
It was 3 weeks. Yeah. Yes. And we would have spent longer there, but Heather forced me to come home. And so I'm like, I want to be irresponsible and stay down in Florida.
Yeah.
Well, and we have to at least comment on the fact that you actually want to spend time with your in-laws, Rich. That's pretty cool.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. They know how to kick us out. We just love hanging out with them so much. Mostly because they pay for the grocery bill. And so I save a lot of money while I'm down there.
For 3 weeks. You eat as much as you can.
We do have the grocery shopping.
No, I'm just joking. We definitely help out.
We do.
That's not completely unfair for them. So,
yeah.
But we love them. They're amazing. And so, yes.
Well, it's good to have you back in town, and you've been back for a little bit. Are you hard at work? And we're going to actually be talking today about setting goals for 2020, but have you all are you head down already getting ready for 2020, or is it still pretty low key?
That's a good question.
We're ramping up. This engine, this train is leaving the station slowly.
It takes us a little while to get there, though. I tell you,
it's going. It's going. It's full on. Yeah. I have been watching a lot of videos. I've been watching. I've been listening to a lot of this podcast, and that just reminded me, especially about the little chatbot thing, and that's when you had on just amazing content, just amazing. Just I'm like I really need, because I always listen to it in my car, and so, but every time I listen to this podcast, I'm like, I should be sitting at a desk writing notes because there's such great content. There's just a lot of really great content. I'm like, I really need to implement this. And so, but it's hard to do that while I'm driving around, which is normally when I'm listening to podcasts. So,
wow, that's very generous of you. Thank you. And you mentioned,
not for you, just your guests. I mean, you
that's fair. That's fair.
Normally, I just kind of like skip past your stuff. I just like fast forward. Okay, now they're talking.
Nathan,
again.
I don't know why you keep inviting him back.
Well played. And shout out, by the way, to Henry Chen, who was the guest on that episode you were mentioning about chatbots too. That was a fascinating episode.
Yes. I want to do a lot more research with that. That is just like, I was just blown away.
Well, and Henry, I mean, this was technology. I mean, we're aware of chatbots. For most of us, if we're working with some type of third-party company, you go to a website, they've got some type of a chatbot there that at least starts a conversation, maybe with their customer service team. But Henry, and I'm actually looking back at the number episode, this was episode 331 with the Bokeh Podcast. Henry spoke to us about how we can actually use this chatbot technology for the sake of marketing. And it's really compelling stuff. So if anybody listening and has not heard that, we'll make sure to link to that in the show notes at bokehpodcast.com. Make sure to listen to episode 331 with Henry.
Yeah, Henry, I may be getting in touch with you if I have questions because because you offered in the podcast. You may regret that.
I went to our local Tuesdays Together meetup last night, and 2 people told me that they implemented it into their business too after listening to the podcast.
See, now
that's really cool.
That's awesome.
That's just peer pressure right there. Now I have to do it.
Well, and speaking of Haylee, activities in the new year, this is kind of a recent thing for you, but you're leading the local Tuesdays Together, the Rising Tide community chapter, correct?
Correct. I started technically in July, but ramping up and starting it because it had kind of died down in our market. We weren't really, no one was meeting, and it was always kind of last minute. So me and Lauren, that has been on the podcast before, have taken over, and I'm excited.
That's cool.
Speaking of Ren, I just want to like do a little quick shout out. She's probably
Are you there, Ren? Are you there?
Ren, are you there?
She's not on today. She texted me this morning.
So Ren wrote an awesome blog post.
Did you read it? I saw the heading.
It's so good. I'm like, I wish I could write like this.
I feel like we need to have her back on and talk about this. She wrote a blog post about the importance of vision weekends.
Yes, and we will probably talk a little about that even today. So during this whole idea about goals and how to make them and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Well, and for anybody curious, we had Rin on the show. I feel like it's been more recently than this, but I know episode 215, she was on Workflow Wednesday with us. If anybody wants to go back and watch that video and or listen to the audio version of it at bokehpodcast.com. But that's interesting, Vision Weekend. I know that our mutual friend, Sean Austin with Kiss Books. This is something that not only he, but also his wife, something they do together annually. And I think I have a lot of respect for it. They'll go to somewhere away from home and take a weekend or a number of days and spend some time planning individually and together for their upcoming year. And I think that kind of big picture view, which is actually something we'll talk about today with goal setting, is really, really important.
Yeah, we have another friend, Chris and Katie Torres down in Atlanta. They normally do this once they go to Highlands, North Carolina. They go to the same place. They go to Highlands, North Carolina, and they hang out there for the weekend. And they do this kind of like that. Their whole main goal is to get away from everything. And so I normally kind of make the excuse that, oh man, they don't have kids, but man, but Chris and Katie do have kids. They have more kids than we do. They still
they still do it.
They still do it. So that's really no excuse on our part. And it sounds like, oh man, to get away with you for a weekend, that'd be awesome. Hopefully we'll be able to actually talk about goals.
And we'll leave that. You guys are awesome. By the way, looking forward to hanging out with you tomorrow night. I know that Jill and myself and Rich and Heather and I are going to go out tomorrow night and grab some dinner. Not trying to exclude you, by the way, Haley.
No.
Yeah.
I've known Rich and Heather.
Much needed and overdue though.
Yeah, I've known Rich and Heather now for, what has it been? I think we figured it out the other day, 13 years, 12 years? No, 14 years.
2006.
2006, yeah, 14 years.
I think 2006. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And not only
Way too long.
are you guys a trip to hang out with, but Rich, you in particular, as you just exhibited, bring this sense of humor that I can't really get enough of. So
you bring it out of me, Nathan. You're like,
well, that's so funny because Nathan and I are the serious ones, and so like I don't know how.
Well, every time, like back in the day, but he was always the ones like, let's play the newlywed game. we would share way too much.
Yeah, for any couples out there, if you've never played the Newlywed Game, the board version of the game, you have got to get it. That created not only some really fun nights, but at times some tense evenings, not with you guys, but with other friends of ours who were not used to being that open and communicative with each other. Yeah. And suddenly they're in a group scenario and sharing more information that they're normally used to sharing with each other. And it created some interesting situations. Needless to say, but
are we going to call that our industry snapshot for the episode?
I was going to say, yeah. Normally at the outset of these shows, for anybody that's new to it, we do talk about kind of industry news. That's some of the latest information, whether it's technology or trends or otherwise. And we could just call it a day with that game. Highly recommend. We'll link to it in the show notes. Actually, I
just linked to it on the Facebook feed too. So if you're watching, you can go buy it now.
Yeah, that will either make your relationship better or it will ruin it. It's one of those two options. There's no middle ground. So.
Speaking of industry news, and we'll kind of jump into our topic for today because it's a big one. But what are your? I mean, I've seen that Canon in the last couple of weeks or so. Anyway, there's been a lot of conversation around. I know you guys shoot Canon, all three of you. There's been a lot of conversation around their new cameras, either that they have already come out with the Mark 5 or Mark 6 that just came out.
Haley?
I'm still on the Mark 3, so I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm like,
here we are.
Are we going to talk about another camera? I'm not going to yet. Okay, all right. Just want to know. All right, cool. Those are great. Specs for this camera that I will get.
Not be getting for a while.
In about 5 years, that'll be great.
Yeah.
So I get it.
I know that Canon just released their kind of professional grade full size body, and I want to say it's the Mark 6. I'm looking actually at Bob and Don Davis, mutual friends of ours as well. Bob has been shooting this for Canon, kind of doing some testing, if you will, pre-release, and he's been pushing out pictures from the camera as well. It's the cool. EOS 1D X Mark III. Actually, is the camera.
There's
nonetheless,
there's an EOS R5 as well. Like,
and then there are rumors about an R5 that's supposed to come out, 45 megapixel sensor. I don't know what you're going to do with that, other than billboards, maybe.
Yeah.
So
8K video. There's a lot. There's a lot of technology pushing out. This is something we've talked about before in the podcast and the show, but. I know that you guys don't have a tendency of jumping right away to the latest technology coming out. Can you just kind of share a little bit of your philosophy on that in light of these conversations about new gear?
Yeah, I mean, like, do you? For me, it's just literally, if I got the latest gear, it may do some things that I can't do right now, but for the most part. My clients would not know. If I shoot right now with a Mark III, a 5D Mark III, I want to get a Mark IV because, but the only reason that is because I think it does like double exposures better in live preview. That it does some really. I can do some really cool artistic stuff. But I'm like. I will use that maybe once or twice in a wedding, and again, like my that's only just for me. I wouldn't even be doing that for the client. My client would be like, that looks cool, but I mean, like all of your other stuff looks cool too. So I mean, like,
if I can interrupt you there, Rich, because you made an interesting point. I think a lot of the stuff that we talk about or put emphasis on or priority on as photographers. We do it because it's important to us or to our peers, and has nothing to do with the client's end experience.
Yeah,
yeah. The same thing for just like you make this point all the time with photographers that edit, like photographers that can edit it or I can edit it, and I guarantee you your client's not going to know. like you may know, but your client's not going to know. So it's like you had to kind of make the decision. Like, hey, so
yeah, our decisions are driven by what's going to benefit our clients and improve their experience, and also making financial decisions that allow us to continue to live below our means so that we can then accomplish our goals of being able to
travel,
invest in family time, which for us is seeing as many national parks as we can, so.
Yeah. I mean, I love wedding photography, but I mean, like, it really is a mean to an end. I mean, my main thing is like, hey, how can I spend more time with my family? I mean, if I won the lottery, I would be quitting my job immediately. And so I could spend 24/7, traveling, so I mean, like,
do you think Heather would put up with you 24/7? Like, would she push you out just occasionally? Maybe
she would love me more.
Oh, you think? Okay.
She's like, I wish we could hang out 24/8.
Notice no comment to that, Rich. I don't know.
No, we really have had a lot of conversation about this. Like, what would life look like if, these are philosophical or theoretical questions to ask, but I think they're good ones to ask because
we need to start playing the lottery. I can't win it without playing it.
No, I do think that question's really interesting. And I like to read threads when people are talking about this. Would you continue to do what you do if money were no object and you didn't need the money? And for us, I think it's always been, we would figure out ways of volunteering and giving back and serving different organizations and ministries, but it wouldn't be a full-time job, And I think that we land on that answer pretty much every time, but we digress.
Well, means to an end is, I think, a really interesting phrase and could probably be a multi-episode series, a longer conversation about why we do what we do. And it seems, I mean, it's easy. I know, first of all, if you're running a business because you absolutely need the money to exist, there is that motivation that is pretty significant. But beyond that, I wonder if a lot of photographers lose sight of kind of the bigger picture. Why did I even start this business in the first place? And then the actual business model itself, does it support what my personal goals are? We're going to be talking about goals today.
Right.
And so I like this idea of a means to an end. My business is a means to the end, which are my personal goals. And it's not the end. I listen to Gary Vaynerchuk. I'll watch his content or listen to his content occasionally. He's been a big inspiration for me, certainly. But the one thing that just doesn't jive with me and I have a hard time relating to is the fact that he, at least last I heard, only spends the weekends with his family. He works 60, 80 hours a week. And his ultimate goal is to buy the New York Jets. And the guy's got an incredible heart and he's like constantly trying to help and give back and add value. But at the end of the day, his life revolves around work and his family relationships seemingly come second. Now, to each his own. I don't know all the inner workings of that relationship, but that I have a hard time understanding your whole life being built around the one thing. And then you literally don't have any nuance. There isn't any variety. And then your relationships suffer as a result as well. That's just hard for me to comprehend.
Yeah. So when it comes to, at least, I guess we're kind of jumping into this, but I mean, like when it comes to making goals, instead of starting with the business, what are our business goals? Is like we make goals that excite us, and we make our personal goals because our personal goals, again, is the ultimate goal. Our ultimate goal is this, and then we can build upon those personal goals into the business goals, which will help us meet these personal goals. But, if we start here, then there's no passion if you have no purpose. In that.
We've talked about this before. We're not running a business out of ambition to be the best or to garner attention or to make people pay attention, or you know what I'm saying? There are people who are legitimately super competitive and ambitious in those kinds of ways.
Yeah, which is great.
That's fine. It's just not who we are. And so I think that Rich's point speaks to that. I don't know about you guys.
I wish I had a little more of that in me. I wish I could take a little bit of Nathan over here and a little bit of Haylee over here and sprinkle it all over me, and I could be like the super person,
But even for those people, I still wonder. I was thinking about this even like today or yesterday. What is the, like, you hear these stories of, Twitter, for example, back in the day got offered $500 million or some ridiculous sum to be bought out by, it was Google or some other entity at the time, and they turned it down. And I'm just thinking, like, what is it? What is the end goal? What are you actually trying to accomplish? I mean, I understand some people might speak to the significance of legacy in one form or another, but I don't understand why, if I had $500 million in the bank and I was set, why I would continue to spend so much of my life working on this business, which in the bigger picture has, I mean, how much impact does it actually have on the people around me personally? That's just, it's hard to comprehend for me. If I had money in the bank, kind of like you guys said with the lottery, I'd be like, thank you. And if I would look for ways certainly to be able to contribute to society, to the world at large. But at the end of the day, running a business, I just don't understand how that is the end for so many people. Like you said, part of the motivation at times is significance, finding significance in some way.
Yeah.
Motivations are going to vary from person to person, but that's just hard to understand. So I love that you guys start with the personal goals and then build from there. So we'll get to that in a bit more detail in a second. First of all, just to kind of start this conversation around setting goals for 2020, I know that this might seem late to the game as far as conversations are concerned, but I think most photographers understand that even late January, first part of February, this is our off season. We're still kind of planning, prepping, getting ready for the upcoming year.
Right.
So I think it's a relevant conversation very much. First of all, have you guys already set, and Haylee, let's start with you. Have you already set specific goals for yourself in 2020, personal and business goals?
Yes, I'm actually really glad y'all brought up the fact of setting personal goals or planning your goals around your personal goals, because my first one is my personal goal. And because I feel like I wouldn't have the drive in business or in my work ethic or anything if I didn't have that personal goal. So the first goal that like we have big picture is to pay down debt. Like that's what we want to do in the next year, 2 years before we have kids. We don't want to have any debt when we bring kids into this world. If we do, still up for debate, but it's one of those things like I am so focused on getting that debt paid down, but how can I use my business to do that without setting goals that are unachievable? Because for me, I've always found myself like setting these super high goals. And then like 2 months into the year, I'm like, do I really want that? Or is that what everyone else wants in their business? So I'm putting it on my business to hit those numbers or to get these clients or whatever that could be. So yeah, my first one is just pay down debt. The second one is to travel more, which this job allows me to. It's remote and I can work from anywhere. I mean, we're not even all together.
You're in Jamaica right now, right?
Oh yeah. No.
Yeah. Point your webcam out the window so you can see the palm trees. I know there's palm trees out your window right now.
Well, there was an earthquake in Jamaica this morning. Like crazy. Yeah. So anyway, travel more. And then as far as business goals go, I am upgrading my studio over the next couple of months to get more interest from a different variety of photographers, because I've been like asking for feedback on people that come in and use the studio. And the feedback really has allowed me to see like what people are actually looking for when they're running the studio, and how I can take my 3 different rooms to shoot in and make them all different. Because right now they all look very similar.
That's awesome. Okay.
Cool.
So I don't have, go ahead.
I was going to say, you're with your travel, actually, you just got to go to, you were in Universal for about a week?
Yeah, it was awesome. We bought annual passes this year. So if we go back and you live in Orlando, let's meet up at Universal.
Yes.
Okay, so Universal over Disney. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I've never been to Universal, and I've always been curious about Universal.
First of all, you're talking, and Haylee Gaffin, you're talking to one of the world's biggest Harry Potter fans. So this would be a natural choice. Universal Studios.
So I actually have only been to Disney when I was like 12, and my husband proposed to me at Universal. So we've always chosen Universal over Disney when we go, mostly for Harry Potter, but also because it is a more inexpensive vacation, inexpensive theme park. But we did go to Disney this last time for one day. We went on the busiest day of the week. It was a holiday, and we rode one ride, but it was awesome. So I'm not going to like hate on Disney at all. We went to Animal Kingdom and it was awesome, but
okay.
Yeah. So
What about you, Rich and Heather? What the goals look like? And you don't even have to share specific goals if you don't want to, but have you already set certain ones for this year, business and personal, or do you separate those?
Here's what I'm struggling with. And this is what, okay. Can you guys hear me okay? You just froze up on me, Nathan.
Yeah, I think we've all, I know that you all have as well a little bit. So I think we're just dealing with the lag somewhere, but yeah.
Okay,
go ahead.
But good right now?
Yes.
Okay. So I feel like as wedding photographers, when we look at our fall season, which is what we go through right before we come to the holidays, it is like survival mode, very busy, trying to get as much done in as efficient a way as possible. It's our busiest time of the year, a lot going on. And so both with weddings and also with Cityscope magazine, which Rich shoots a whole lot for. So we get through this season of fall, and then we go into this holiday season where really the focus is just on relaxing, recovering, personal time, family time, and sort of just being, like, if that makes any sense. For us, that season when we're down in Florida, being with my family, we're not the best version of ourselves. We're just existing. You know what I mean? Like, we're just enjoying the family time. We're not like making a bunch of goals yet.
That is my best version.
I feel like the time from like Christmas to New Year's is like the worst version of yourself, because you're just like eating and sleeping and laying around. I don't know. I feel like that week is just puts you in a weird place.
And playing Sudoku.
You come back in town, and for me,
I love Sudoku. I love Sudoku.
Like I said,
I'm unhealthy. Okay.
Anyway, so this time of year,
That's my vice. That's my only vice. And so sorry. I apologize.
No, whenever you're done.
No. That's my other vice, is interrupting you. I apologize. Okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
Anyway, so
I'm holding on to my little orange.
He's like holding a sumo mandarin.
Has anybody?
You've talked about these on Workflow Wednesday before.
I have actually.
This is the year this is the time of year to get them. Guys, these sumo oranges, they look really interesting.
They're like $2 each. They're so expensive.
For anybody that is only listening to the audio version of this, Rich is currently holding up an orange that looks like it sprouted an Audi belly button on top.
Yes. It's a sumo. I'm not sure why it's called sumo, but it is the best orange you'll ever have. Ever. And it only comes out this time of year, so go get them. Earth Fare, Whole Foods, they're all over the place right now.
Shout out to Earth Fare and Whole Foods.
If you want to spend $8 for 4 oranges,
it's totally worth it.
So with me wanting to pay down debt, I should not go buy those.
No.
These are not budget oranges.
But this is part of our goal. Our goal is to have enough money to buy sumo oranges once a year.
Okay.
So I like to have small goals because
I don't
Good goal.
Heather, we'll let you try to pick back up where you left off.
I apologize. I will no more interrupting.
This is what I don't know how many people can relate to this, but what I struggle with this time of year in making goals, and we talk about New Year's resolutions, and we just talk about gearing up for a fresh year of business, is a little bit of goal whiplash, where there's too many goals, too many possibilities, too many ways in which we can improve. For me, I've got, travel goals. I have goals to read certain stack of books. I have goals as a homeschool mom to improve our days. I have goals as a co-business owner to improve our business. I feel like the most challenging thing for me this time of year is to hone in on and fitness goals. That's another thing. More, fitness goals,
marriage goals.
I feel like we can get a little bit of whiplash and either spread ourselves too thin with goals or not focus in to where we are kind of more laser focused. And so
if you've got so many moving parts, it is hard to focus on each one of those.
Yeah. And I mean, this is just adulting, right? I think we can all relate to a sense of overwhelm sometimes, maybe not always, but there are seasons of life that feel like, I don't know what direction to go. I don't know what area to work on improving first. And I think it's good that we have a desire to improve. I certainly, I'm a realist, so I'm not terribly optimistic, but I'm also not real pessimistic either. And so being kind of middle of the road and wanting to set realistic goals for myself requires a lot of open communication between Rich and I. And so in order to hone in on what are among all the things that we're talking about, what are the most important things, and what are some actionable steps that we can take towards the goals that we decide are the most important? Because again, having too many moving parts all at one time, I feel like sets us up for failure and not success. And so someone posted on social media the other day, I don't really think this gets old, because I think people like me need to be reminded, but progress over perfection. We're not we can't perfect everything all at once, but we can make progress. And so what are the steps that we need to take toward the progress that we want to make,
Yeah. I mean, like, I've been, besides listening to your podcast more, I also have been watching these videos of some great guys just talking about, and then like one of the biggest I was listening to a video of this guy who challenged himself to create a new habit. He would 12 habits. One habit for every 30 days, and so a new habit every month of the year.
Okay.
Basically 12 habits, and so just to kind of challenge himself, and because these habits were like that a lot of people were like, oh, these are I did this and it completely changed my life. And he, like,
for example, waking up at 5 a.m. every morning,
right,
or journaling every day, or meditating every day, or cutting out sugar,
or
cutting out caffeine,
or he did 30 days of taking cool showers, and it was really, he just talk, he like, what he learned in that year is that the biggest advice, that just is, don't overthink it, just do it, do something, quit.
And what he learned through this year was really cool, because he said that some of the things that people were so emphatic about being so life-changing, some of those things for him were not life-changing and simply did not work for him. Sure. And so
like waking up at 5 o'clock, he said he did this for over 30 days, and he was groggy, his body did not react well doing that, and so he because of his whole schedule is very sporadic and all whatnot. So just because it worked for one person doesn't mean it's going to work for everyone, and so yeah.
So I think that, for Rich and I right now, we're in the process of, we're watching these really cool videos, but it's a matter of like assimilating that information and figuring out what's the next step for us personally. So we do have some personal goals and we do have some business goals. And I'll just share one of our business goals for the year is, there have been times in the past so I think it's really cute when super young entrepreneurs come into the industry and they're really good at what they do and they're really energized and every day is like a new adventure. And I think that's really great, but we're like 13 years in to running a business, and not every day is thrilling anymore. And not every day feels like an adventure, and not every day. And we have kids and we're homeschooling and life is more complicated now. We have more responsibilities. And so I think that, for us, if we do not have a purpose that is driving our business,
a bigger purpose,
larger than us and larger even than our clients,
and larger even than our personal goals.
Yeah, then we risk burning out and we risk dissatisfaction. And so one of our biggest business goals,
and just to kind of frame this a little bit, Heather, if you don't mind, I like to try to, just for this flow of conversation, everybody listening in, we were talking about, have we already set goals for 2020? By the way, I'll add that I haven't yet. We'll come back to philosophy a little bit, and just a little bit, and why I haven't, because I have a little bit of a different approach to setting goals. But just for everybody listening in, if you're looking for specific ways to go about setting up a plan, or even setting 1 or 2 or 3 goals, I think what Rich and Heather are about to share is very much going to mirror my thought process on the matter. And I'd love to hear Haylee's here in just a second. But this would beg the question, and you're about to answer this, Heather, how do you go about creating that plan or setting those goals? What's your process? So I'll let you take it.
Yeah, I think for us, at least, I don't know about everybody else, and I don't know, but there can be a sense of discontent or dissatisfaction or a lack of purpose sometimes that sort of is just a kind of like a sense that we have had. And so through open conversation and through brainstorming together, and even just being willing to just speak what you're thinking and what you're feeling to each other is really important. But I think one thing that we really want to try to work on this year, and we're going to talk about some tonight, is we've had pockets of time during our business where we've either partnered with or donated a portion of our business proceeds to like thirst relief or worked with Help Portrait for a time. But I think that for us, finding a purpose that really ignites us and makes us feel like there is a philosophical and spiritual and emotional purpose for what it is that we're doing, that we can follow through with, instead of just kind of getting distracted by like this ministry or this organization, but finding something that really ignites us and having that be the purpose behind what we're doing. And so, and communicating that clearly to our clients, even like, Rich got a really cool email from a, was it a photography business? And they were just talking about like, listen, with every album that you purchase and with every, product sale, you are helping benefit this cause. And in this case, it was like a human trafficking situation. And so,
yeah, I mean, as far as like implementing all this, it's very interesting. I mean, like, I am almost to the point, I guess because of my age, whatnot, I don't know. I mean, like, but I tend to not to I try to avoid creating goals at the very like December 31st, January 1st, because I know that like the reason why I'm doing this is because it's January 1st. Right? It's a clean slate. And, it's the beginning of a new year. I can become a new person. That's things that bother me. And but the percentage of people who make these goals and drop out of them, 3 weeks down the road or 2 weeks down the road, is staggering, right? And so I tend to like to create goals, not because it's January 21st. January 1st. I almost want to like avoid making goals at that time, so that when I do make goals, I know it's not because it's the beginning of the year, because I know those are probably not going to stick. I'm only making it because I feel guilty. I feel this or feel that, and those are not really good motivations, because they don't stick. And so to make goals a little bit later than January is simply because I feel like we have a little more clarity and a little more I probably stick to itiveness. We can as far as like creating goals and whatnot. So one of the things, simply because in fact, we've gotten out of this. We need to get back into it. It's literally walking every day together. We get away from the house. We're exercising and literally just talking. We walk. We don't run, so we can talk and just, hey, like how are we doing? What is our goals?
Rich, just be honest. You just don't want to run. That's what.
That too.
Have you seen our neighborhood, bro?
It's like the hills.
It's yes, and so yeah. There's no talking after running like 15 seconds in our neighborhood, like you're trying to survive. But yeah, it's a great thing just for us to just every day
in the morning
to just be like, hey, where are we? I like to make the goals and the ideas that we have into put into Todoist. And so on our walks, we only bring my Apple Watch and my AirPods, and I've tried to figure out how to sync. I want to, like, while we're talking, to make notes, or and Siri is the worst. I'd be like, hey, add this to my to-do list, and it will like 9 times out of 10 get it wrong. And because you can actually sync a list and in your reminders to Todoist. And that's what I was trying to do, trying to make it so I could, but like, I just gave up. Siri is the worst. I'm not going to carry my phone around. I just like to have my watch with me.
But you made a couple of points that are interesting. I think we should kind of reiterate. One, as much as January 1st, the first of the year, has become this cultural time in which we consider where we've come from and where we're going. I think it's great that I think there are some elements of this process of setting goals in the new year that are broken, but I think it's good that we at least have a time in our culture where we're reminded to look at ourselves and consider how we might be able to get better, and potentially write some of those ideas down. Then the question comes of how we actually follow through on those ideas, those goals. And I like that you all take this approach of daily walks that enable you to look on an ongoing basis at where you're at, what you still want to accomplish, what you're reaching toward on an ongoing basis. So it's not just a once a year thing, but it's an ongoing process of consideration and adjustment and checking the thing off the list and going to the next thing. I think that's a much healthier way to go about it. We have this tendency, and I've certainly been guilty of it in our culture in one form or another, in business and our personal lives, of behaving in kind of this almost manic depressive way in which we get really excited about something for a short amount of time while it feels good. And then we have this massive fall off and we don't actually follow through on it, versus taking an approach that's a little bit more even keeled and enables us to actually accomplish something at the end of the day, even if it is small steps at a time. You were alluding to that earlier, just consistently taking small steps and moving forward. So the idea of reminding yourselves of where you're at, what you want to accomplish, what you're reaching toward on an ongoing basis through a walk or some comparable activity, I think is a really great way to go about keeping up with, not just initially setting the goals, but keeping up with those goals, keeping them in front of mind, making sure that you're actually reaching toward those things. What about you, Haylee? What does that process look like for you?
Yeah, well, before I go there, I do want to go back to something Heather said, that is actually a conversation I had with a few friends the other day about finding purpose. There's so much content out there about finding your why and your purpose. And I mean, we talk about it on the podcast a lot. And a lot of us in this conversation, we're talking about how like we aren't really sure what our purpose is, or like for our business, like, why do you have your business? And for the most part, it was financial freedom. But so many outlets out there are saying like, oh, it should be more than that. It should be fluffy and touchy feely and, make your heart flutter. And like, to me, I just right now in my life, I don't have that purpose other than the financial freedom. And I think that has a lot to do with like where I'm at in life. And I don't have kids. I have a husband, but our goal is financial freedom. And so I was curious what your thoughts on it were on it when it comes to finding a purpose when maybe financial freedom is your only purpose at this moment in time in your life. Because I feel like we have listeners out there that might feel that way and may have listened to other podcast episodes talking about finding your why. And like I've listened to almost all of the ones we've published multiple times trying to find my why in my own personal life. It's just, I struggle with it right now. Like, why do I do my business?
Yeah. I mean, like financial freedom is an incredible goal. And we would encourage everyone to pursue that, I mean, like that is, huge. I mean, like, like that's definitely a worthwhile goal to pursue. That's for sure. Well, so, I definitely don't want to limit that or like to
minimize it. Yeah.
Minimize it,
the thing about, I want to comment on this because the thing about financial freedom is it's not sexy. It doesn't have these, the fireworks going off in the background and the obsession around feeling just passionate, quote unquote, about this particular goal. It's a practicality. It's a reality of life. But like so many things in life, and I think this is an important part of this conversation about setting goals. Like so many things in life, the reality is the good feelings come later. Initially, it may not feel great to have a little bit of discipline, to cut spending here and there, to take this extra chunk of money that you made and put it toward, paying off debt or stick it in savings because 10 years from now it's going to be awesome. Any of those things don't in the moment feel great. We've gotten so obsessed with feeling great in the moment. And trust me, I love to feel good in all kinds of ways. But at the end of the day, it's not even just about adulting. It's about doing life. And if we get so obsessed with feeling good about this thing, about having this so-called passion, that we have to feel passionate about everything we do, I think we're going to miss out on a lot of opportunity in life. And this particular topic of financial freedom, of financial security, it doesn't come with good feelings all the time. It's what's going to come 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, 50 years down the road, that's where the payoff is. There are plenty of things that we can experience, that we can do and experience immediate gratification or good feelings in one form or another now. But some of these elements of goal setting include activities that don't have immediate gratification, and we have to be okay with that. It's exhausting, frankly, to go through social media and see everybody obsessing so much about this word passion. Passion comes from purpose. And I love that you made that point earlier, Heather. And that purpose is hopefully, at least largely, centered around how you're going to add value to other people, whether it's taking care of those closest to you, or adding value in some way to your community or to your region or the country or otherwise. But it's not obsessed around how I feel right this second. So many people are so obsessed with, I have to feel passionate about everything right now. And I need to, I guess ultimately the behavior centers so much around feeling that so-called passion. And I just think we need to get past that. I think that's a bit of an immature, almost kind of childish obsession that we've developed as a culture. It's a good thing. There's nothing wrong with it. But if that's where we're focused, we're going to miss out on a lot. So I love that you're focusing on something practical, Haylee.
Yeah.
And the feeling of financial freedom. I paid off $100,000 or so in debt some time ago, and there was a significant amount of it was just, I guess, ultimately relief was really the word that came from that experience. Now, I could have, to continue to, I guess, focus my intentions, my efforts, my energy, and spending ultimately on things that just made me feel good in the moment, wouldn't have brought the long-term benefit of putting more of my finances into paying off that debt. I could have paid it off even sooner, and it would have freed me up for other things even sooner. But I just think we need to get past that obsession with needing to feel good and feel passionate about all of our goals. I probably spoke for too long there, but
and speaking personally from our standpoint as well, is that we do have kids, and there's a kind of a sense of urgency for us, because we are realizing how quickly they're growing up, and so like we can hunker down. And we live below our means, and we could do more as far as like getting out of debt and whatnot. But we also know that we can hunker down and eat Spam every night and like really attack our debt in crazy ways. And but at the same time, we're going to the kids will go to college, we'll be out of debt, but we have no memories, like we have so
you want to live a little bit too simultaneously.
Yeah. I mean, like, and so like, I mean, oh gosh, I was sending my Heather, like some photos I found on my phone about their kids when they were much younger. And like, that just seemed like yesterday, I'm like, we just only have a limited amount of time. I want them to experience things and travel. And so that's why we have made our goals based upon that, simply because of where we are in life, and where we are in life is different than where you are in life, and so there's not as much urgency because
I think the other thing too about the setting, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this actually, Haylee, when you put the priority on paying off debt and to being financially free, my assumption would be that comes from somewhere even deeper, right? So this is a symptom of an even bigger picture goal that you and your husband have. You want financial freedom because of fill in the blank. And that's where the so-called passion might come from. The process of paying off debt's not any fun, but no. I want financial freedom for, these three reasons. That's where the passion comes from. So, and we'll talk about this, and we only have about 12 minutes left, but we'll talk about this in a second about what it means to actually set kind of big picture underlying goals that drive everything that we do and that drives our behavior, and that actually can simplify this whole goal setting process. But do you have underlying reasons why you want to be financially free?
Yes, and not too underlying. Mine came from when I graduated college. Like, I think we talked about this the other day. When you take out loans, when you go to college as an 18-year-old, you're not really thinking about like, oh, I have to pay this back plus more money. And so I ended up paying almost $11,000 in interest
Right.
And I paid my student loans off in 3 years, and I still paid $11,000 in interest. So like, the fact of the matter is, I feel like I want it, the feeling I had then, I never want to have again. When I graduated college, and the first thing that they told me was, oh, you owe all this money. And I mean, I knew what I was doing. I was taking out money, but as an 18-year-old, you think like, oh, I can pay that off in my first year of working, but you don't think of, oh, you have bills and all these other things. So I think that's where it mostly came from. And then just the fact that we don't want to have debt. I don't want to owe anything to anyone forever. I want to be able to like, get a paycheck and it's my money. I'm not paying it to someone else because of interest, because, whatever that could be. But I think the reason I asked the question was mostly because like, I do see financial freedom as some type of purpose. But so far of what I've seen coming out in social media and from influencers and all of that is like, finding your purpose and passion has to be so much bigger in a way that only serves your clients. And I think I almost needed some kind of reassurance, and maybe other listeners might as well need reassurance in that it can be personal and kind of selfish.
Well, so let's make it really practical then, because again, I know we have limited time. I don't mind going longer, but I want to respect everybody listening, and Rich and Heather and Haylee as well, everybody's time. But I think what we're talking about here is having the purpose that then drives the passion. What this looks like for me practically, and I'd love to get you all's thoughts on this as well. But what this looks like for me is a couple of things. First of all, I don't normally set annual goals because of that kind of, and again, I've been guilty of it myself in various elements or parts of my life, but that kind of manic depressive tendency where we get really excited about setting goals, and then there's this fall off, and then we don't actually follow through. And I think a healthier way to go about it is to establish, first of all, a certain set of values that drive my behavior on a daily basis. I literally have this on the background for anybody that's actually watching the video side of things. This is on, my values are set on the home screen of my phone. Right. There are 8 values. And these are big ideas that I know ultimately bring fulfillment to my life, but that will also benefit others. And so everything I do on a daily basis kind of the goal is to build it around that set of values. Tony Robbins talks a lot about values, or talks about the significance of values in his book, Reawaken the Giant Within. For anybody that's listening in, if you haven't read that book, it's a free PDF download. You can get it for Kindle as well, or used to be able to anyway. Nonetheless, it's a free download, so I highly recommend that book. But instead of hitting January 1st or December 31st and saying, okay, what do I want to do this year? First of all, for me, I already know what I want to do on a daily basis, and it largely centers around behaviors that are driven by those values, number one. And just to give context very, very quickly, health, growth, simplicity, as in focusing on the things that actually make a difference, kindness, connectedness, community, proactivity. And we talked about the significance of continuing to move forward. That's a lot of what that proactivity is about. Consistency, again, minimizing the manic depressive, but staying consistent emotionally, my behavior in my business, my personal life, and ultimately maintaining these values. And then thankfulness are the values. And then beyond that, then something we talk about a lot on the podcasts is this idea of a big picture view. So here are my values. Now, what am I actually trying to accomplish in life? Big picture goals on a financial level and potentially in a relationship level. And there may be some other elements of your life that you want to set specific goals for on a bigger picture level. What do I want to do in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, 15, 20 years? And these are the big picture goals that drive literally everything that we do. Now, for me, it's more conceptual in nature, which again gives me a lot of flexibility. I don't have to hit the reset button on my goals every year. I can get very specific. And actually, that's my biggest weakness when it comes to setting goals, is not breaking it down into more specifics. That's where I could stand to do better. But my big picture view centers around saving people time and encouraging connection or encouraging relationships. That drives what I do on a business level. The businesses that I start, they all revolve around that idea. Photographers edit. Sure, we're a custom image editing service, but it saves photographers time, which frees them up to focus on relationships. Milu, this app that we've launched just recently, it actually encourages, first of all, it saves photographers, coordinators time because it makes the whole process of creating, planning, managing events much more efficient. But it also encourages relationships because there's a collaborative feature built into the app as well. So everything that, in long term, there's a chance that eventually I may get into the psych field that will center around encouraging relationships, being a relationship counselor. My life, that's what it revolves around. So how I spend my time, and then ultimately, I mean, these businesses give me freedom and flexibility to also focus on the relationships in my life. That's what the values and that bigger picture view outside of certain financial goals that I have set. That's what drives my day to day, my week to week, the month to month. It revolves around those ideas. So I don't continually have to hit the reset button every year. And I don't have to, do that roller coaster thing where I'm excited about these new goals and then it drops off. And then I get back to a new set of goals and then it drops off. The bigger picture idea is what drives everything. It does give me purpose, which can drive that excitement and the so-called passion that everybody's so obsessed with. And it feels good to feel that passion. But it's rooted in these bigger picture ideas, not some temporary desire to have this thing to feel good. And so I think it's a healthier place to start.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like if we boiled it down, the purpose of even making goals is to improve our lives and hopefully the lives of others as well. And so, Haylee, I feel like too much is made of finding your purpose. Like it's this big, elusive one, like once you figure it out, everything else is simple. I feel like it doesn't have to be like an either or. I feel like it's both and. You have this personal goal of financial freedom, which is a great goal, and you guys are working toward it. And at the same time, you can take a meal to a friend who's sick and you can live generously and you can, maybe, like there are multiple ways to give back and to love and to serve while you're accomplishing your own personal goals. And I feel like that's when we're the most fulfilled. We are being a good friend. We're being a great spouse. We are, for us, raising our kids in a way where they are loved and supported. So I feel like there's so many little opportunities to find your purpose. And really it's the day in and the day out of what we do with our time and how we love people. It doesn't have to be this big elusive thing. And I feel like just the way that we live and the way that we love and the way that we have integrity and the way that we try to be the best friend that we can be, for us right now, we're losing a dear friend to cancer. And so every single day we're praying for this person and we're asking, there's another person, we have another friend who lost someone. And so taking meals and loving them in that way and asking what kind of practical way can we edit for you? Like, what are the ways that we can help? Like, to me, that's giving back and that's living in a way that serves others. And simultaneously, we have goals that are more selfish in nature because they really only benefit us. But you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
I think that Instagram can be a toxic place with a lot of 20-year-olds who are lacking a bit of life experience and wisdom, who are touting a lot of catchphrases that don't hold a lot of water when it comes to real life. And so I feel like,
Well, and you mentioned that phrase, finding your purpose. And another phrase that's thrown around a lot is finding yourself. They're treated as these kind of arbitrary concepts or ideas that at some point they're just going to hit us out of the blue, or that, we're going to search for X amount of time and we're finally going to find our purpose. We're going to, I found it. Yeah. Or I found myself. Yeah. As though we don't have the ability to ultimately make a choice for ourselves and decide what it is that we actually want out of life and then go create that thing. And it's not that it's easy, but ultimately I think it's a lot more empowering instead of kind of putting it out there and just waiting for it to happen by saying, I'm going to find it at some point. I can say, I choose who I want to be. This is the person I want to be. These are the values that I want to reflect. I don't live them out as consistently as I would like still. It's something that I continue to work on. Here are the big picture ideas that drive what I want to do in business and ultimately what I want to do for the world at large. When I die, aside from having hopefully taken care of and loved those closest to me well, I'm ultimately going to bring this type of value to the world. And so everything that I do is driven by that. And yes, you break that down on a day-by-day basis, and that's going to look, for example, Haylee, when I asked you about what's driving your desire for paying off debt and being financially free, if I were to apply it to my life, for example, what that ultimately does is it frees me up to invest in businesses that will enable me to save more people time and connect more people or encourage their relationships. Or it frees me up now to go to school and get my degree so that I can open the practice and again, continue to live out my big picture value or goals by helping connect people. So ultimately, these goals can be a means to an end. I think the key for a lot of people is they don't have that so-called end, the big picture view to actually reach toward. So that's why it's a lot easier on an annual basis to be like, all right, what do I want to do this year? Oh, maybe I'll try to lose some weight again. Well, if health is a value that you establish for yourself that you continue to try to strive for on an ongoing basis, there's no reason to try to hit the reset or to have to hit the reset button at the beginning of the year. That's just one small example. But I think we've gotten in this habit as a culture of, because we don't have those overarching goals to reach toward, that it's just very easy to get to we set the goal and we fall off, and we set the goal and we fall off because we don't have the overarching purpose that you referenced earlier in our conversation, Heather, to create the passion that drives our behavior consistently throughout the year. And I think that's what we need to get back to is being clear about what it is we're trying to accomplish on a bigger picture basis that will help us all be a lot more consistent.
Yeah, well said.
Very well.
3:00 exactly.
Whoa.
Wow. We did it.
Sorry, I derailed us.
There's so much.
Yeah, we're professionals. Look at this, 3:00. Bam.
We're like, and done.
There is so much though. That's a good summary. And I know that we were I think we were kind of thinking and brainstorming out loud too.
For sure.
I like
very stream of consciousness. Yeah, today. Yeah.
Thank you everybody for listening in. If you're listening to the audio version of this on the podcast, just know you can go to facebook.com/photogsedit, the Facebook page for Photographers Edit.
And you can see a Sumo orange
video and save the video for these live broadcasts. Yes, you can see Rich's, what are they called? Sumo oranges?
Yes, Sumo oranges. They're the best.
And on some podcast episodes, we actually show you things that might add value to your life as well.
Maybe.
Hey, don't knock until you try, bro. This will add a lot of value to your life.
In all seriousness, I'm very curious. I need to go to Whole Foods, I guess, and get some.
Yeah.
Haylee, do we have upcoming Workflow Wednesdays episodes that we can kind of tease for anybody, or at least the dates before we close out?
So we are still finalizing the dates. It'll be either the second or the third week in February. Just trying to nail down final dates.
Yeah, Haylee and I are going to be traveling a lot over the next 6 to 8 weeks or so for various conferences that we're sponsoring. So we will try to get a Workflow Wednesday in here and there in between that travel. But thank you everybody for listening in, for chiming in. This has been another production of the Bokeh Podcast and Workflow Wednesday. Looking forward to seeing you again next time.
Yes.
Good to see you guys.
Yes, thank you guys so much. Good to see you guys again.
Thanks so much for listening to the Bokeh Podcast. Will you let us know what you thought by leaving a review of the podcast in iTunes or the Apple Podcast app? And I'd love to hear from you personally with your thoughts about the podcast and suggestions about future topics and guests for the show. My email is nathan@photographersedit.com. The Bokeh Podcast is brought to you by Photographers Edit, custom image editing for the professional photographer. Visit photographersedit.com.